Hello, class. I'm kind of doing this on the fly because there's been a little bit of talk about MLA formatting, and of course, I've sent you to places like Al Purdue, etc. But I want to show you just how you can set up a page very, very easily, and so it's not a problem for you as you are working in MLA formatting. MLA, of course, stands for Modern Language Association, and I won't go into details, but let me tell you, there's just the particulars of every documentation style in different disciplines, and you have to learn them as an academic. So I've opened up a blank Word page. So here we are. So here are the basics in setting up a page for MLA. Then right away I go to Times New Roman is fine, and then I always want 12-point font. So that's the first thing that I do. Then I go over to paragraph, and I click here, and I want to double space everything in MLA formatting. And then right here, this little weird thing always happens. In the default formatting that you get when you open Word, there's some spacing after you enter your return key, like if you're going to a new paragraph or, etc. So I want to always take that down to 0. So when I'm looking at this, I want all this to be on 0. I want this to be on double. And I can set this as a default on my machine. But if I'm going to go from, the library or another place, I need to know how that's going to work. So I say, okay, and I've got that set. Now, I am going to insert my header, and this is how I do that. I go over to Insert, and I want it to number the pages. And so I go insert the page number. I want it at the top of the page. And when I get the drop down menu, I see plain number 3, and I go there. I put my cursor right before that one, and I put my last name. I'm going to pretend that this is my last name. My name is Susie Wiggins, let's say. And so I go Wiggins, and then I put a space in, guys. This is important. Space. Now, do not do anything with the number. Just let that be, because then that will automatically number on all your other pages. I need to make sure that this is the right thing, because the header doesn't always automatically come up Times New Roman 12. But in this case, I'm good. So this is often a mistake that I see. This header that you put in, it doesn't necessarily keep the same font or size of font. So then I'm in here, and so I go outside the line and just click. There I am. Now I'm back in my regular place. So I put my name here, and I'm Susie Wiggins. There I am. Then the next thing I do is I put my professor. So I'll put, in this case, let's say you're writing for my class, Maureen Durant. Look at that. I have a medial capital in my name. This was a name that I didn't choose, I guess I chose it because I married someone with the name, but it complicates things a little. I understand that it's complicated, and I'm not bothered if people don't get it correct. But some professors are very picky, so I want you to make sure that if your professor wants to say professor or doctor or put, their degrees on there, do what the professor wants, and by all means, please spell their name correctly. Now, the next line in MLA format is the name of the course. In this case, you can just call it UNIV 1113, and that's fine. Or you can call it study strategies, call it success. As I said, I'm not as picky, but at the same time, follow exactly what your professor wants. Now, here's the date thing that's odd. Today's date is the 7th, so let's go 7 November. And you spell out the month, and you put the day first. There's no commas or anything. And then you put the year fully, like 2017. And that is the way your header generally looks in MLA formatting. And so if your professor has other particular things that they want there, please follow their individual instructions. But by and large, this is MLA formatting. Now I just enter once, okay? And then I want to center a title. Everything that you write should always have a title. So let's say you're doing this for your critical thinking in blooms. And so there we are, critical thinking in blooms. This is an assignment in the class that's due this week. And so you can title it that. Something else would be fine. Now I go back, just one space. Guys, don't make this mistake. Sometimes people want to put their they want to put this in italics or bigger letters or bold or something. Quotations. It should only be in quotations if you're quoting something. So make sure you just leave it plain. Now I need to go back to left, okay? Now, for our assignment, you're going to do a numbered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to go with remembering first, and then you're going to go into the next. So remembering is the, or remember, you can use the participle or just remember. Remembering is the first step. And in this step, all you're doing is you are remembering one thing. You're remembering what it is that a decision that you made. Hello class, I just want to make you a quick video on MLA formatting. I know there is perhaps with a few people a little bit of angst over that. We know that MLA formatting is a formatting style set up by the Modern Language Association. It's primarily used in English classes. Other content areas, for instance, psychology, will use APA. And so you'll have to know that there are different documentation styles, and everyone is very particular. I just want to show you quickly how to set up an MLA page, and I think it's quite easy once you get the hang of it. So I've just opened up Microsoft Word, and now I am going to set up the basics. Go ahead and just use Times New Roman. I think you can use Courier too for most of the time. Most teachers would accept that, but just use Times New Roman because that's pretty typical. And you're going to use 12-point font. Times New Roman 12-point font. The entire paper, Times New Roman 12-point font. Never change it. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I come over here to paragraph, and here's my drop down there. And when I come to paragraph, I want to make sure this is at 0, 0, because then the default is 1-inch margins, and that's what I need. And then I'll go ahead and put double for line spacing. Now here's a weirdness. If I do not take this down to 0, they're going to put space between the paragraphs, and I'll get that little extra space that I don't want. If you're using your own machine, you can set it as a default, but you still need to probably know how to do this. So we'll go okay, and we'll stop. Now I need to insert my header. That is my page number, my name at the top. So your header is your last name and a page number. So this is how you do it. You go to insert, click there, and then I find there insert page number. So we got page number, and I drop down, and I want it at the top of the page, and I see that drop down menu. And I come over here, and then, okay, so I put my cursor right before that number 1. I don't change that number 1 or anything, okay, because the computer automatically formats it. So I don't change it, okay. So let's pretend this student is, well, what should I pretend? I'll pretend she's Susie Wiggins. And so I will, capital W, Wiggins is her last name, okay. Now, I put in the last name, I put 1 space, and then I've got the 1. All right, I need to make sure, because this is another weirdness, that I make sure that this is Times New Roman 12, and it is. So I should be good to go. So I go outside of that blue dotted line, and I click out of it. Now, I sometimes will test myself, to make sure that I've gotten that correct, and make sure it is when I get to page 2 that it's going to automatically put Wiggins 2. Okay, so we will see in just a moment. All right, so now I do my header. And my name is Susie Wiggins. And so I put my name, first name, last name, just like that. Now, in the next line, I'm going to put my professor's name. And I'm going to call my professor what he wants to be called. If he wants to be called doctor, I put doctor. If he wants to be called, Grand Poobah, I put Grand Poobah. And so what for my class, my name is fine. My name is Maureen Durant. And you can just put Maureen Durant, and I'm cool with that. Now, here's a point. I'm not going to be picky with you, but I'm going to tell you that you have a lot of professors that take it as a sign of disrespect if you're not spelling the name correctly. And my name has a capital medial R, and that can be complicated. I didn't, make it up. That's just the way it's always been. And so try to spell, look at the syllabus, get your professor's name right, okay, because it can just not be a great impression. Now, on the next line, you put the name of the course as the professor has instructed you to do. For our course, UNIB 1113, it's absolutely fine. That works for me. And then on the next line, you put the date. Now, here's the weirdness in MLA again. Today's date is 7 November Okay, and then I put 2017. Note a few things here. No punctuation. The date is before the month, and the month is spelled out. Hello. That's just what these people have decided is their format. Then I put one space in. Now, everything should always have a title. For instance, for this activity, you can say critical thinking using Bloom's. So there you are, taxonomy if you want. Bloom's taxonomy. Now for this, then I have to go back there. Now I'm going to go ahead and go through a little bit of details on this and it may be helpful to you at this moment. So I wanted you to do each one, your remembering step, and this is the step where you're remembering, and all you're doing is stating the fact, you're remembering an academic decision that you made or a decision that you made that affected your academic life. It could be the number of hours you took, or how you tried to do too much, or what you weren't at the right place in the right time, or you didn't take an AP class, or you didn't study for your AccuPlace, or whatever that academic decision that you made was that did not go as you expected. Okay? And then the remembering step is only the fact. Don't go beyond that. Then I want you to number these because I think that's the easiest way for you to really get it clear in your mind what you're doing. In the understanding phase, in the understanding step, I want you to now explain how you made that decision. So our objective here is that you're explaining now that I understand how I made that decision. That, these were my options, this was my thinking, this was my influence. I understand, I explain how I made that decision. Then I'll go ahead and go to the next step, and that is applying. Now, this is looking back. This is what I understand now, and I could apply to that same decision, that it would maybe have the outcome then that I expected. Okay, so then I'm applying. The next step is analyzing. Now, people sometimes go wrong on this one, and I don't know what I'm not explaining correctly. But in analyzing, what I'm asking you to do is compare and contrast the decision that you remembered in step one with another decision that did have an outcome that you expected. And so the point of that is that you're looking at different decisions that you've made, and you're trying to get an understanding of yourself as a decision maker. You're trying to get an understanding of how you made decisions that had good outcomes versus ones that had outcomes that weren't as desirable for you at the time, etc. So you first say, another decision that I made regarding my academics that did have the outcome that I expected was so-and-so. When I made that decision, I did this, blah, 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 as opposed to the other decision, etc. So you're analyzing something. Then I'm going to the next step, number 5, and that is evaluating. The main thing that you're doing in evaluating is now I'm evaluating myself as a decision maker. And if you look back at the example that I provided when I gave you the instruction sheet, it was like, what is it about me that I know I need to be aware of as I make decisions? And I said, for me, it was like sometimes I can be way too emotional about decisions, and so I have to be aware of that. I also know that there's other things. I'm really good at research and trying to find solutions and options, and so I know that that's a strength that I have. So I'm evaluating myself. Maybe I want to go down the road of evaluating my decisions that I've made in terms of, good and bad decisions, etc. And so really what I'm asking you to do here is evaluate yourself as a decision maker. Again, look back at my example, and I think that helps you. In the final step is creating. So now that I know more about myself, I'm trying to analyze and look at myself as a decision maker, I need to create a plan for making decisions. So what is it? For some people, it's very simple. I've had one student said, my plan is go, get information and onward, upward. Other people are much more detailed. The one that I gave you, I'm probably a little too detailed in how I think I need to go about making my decisions. And so that's really what I'm asking you to do. You're going to do all 6 steps. You're going to number them like this. And now I've got my MLA formatting. Okay, and so that's just how you do it. I want you to ask me for any questions. I don't want this to be stressful. I want it to be helpful for you. And so let me know how you're doing and if you have any questions. Over and out.